Hi, my name is Lama Nassif and I'm Assistant Professor of Arabic Studies at Williams College. In this video summary, I will talk about the article in this volume of Foreign Language Annals entitled Salience in the Noticing and Production of Second Language or L2 Arabic Forms. Now, what I mean by L2 is any language learned after acquiring the mother language. Now, I've personally always been interested in second language production. And one aspect of production is the use of linguistic features, which is typically viewed by second language teachers and learners as a manifestation of successful learning. And one question that I've personally observed in my Arabic classrooms and in conversations with colleagues teaching different languages is, why do some learners use linguistic forms in their spoken and written productions more successfully than others? This question has direct influence on L2 instruction and assessment, but remains under-researched in the context of Arabic learning. And so I wanted to investigate this question further. One potential answer to the question of why some learners use linguistic forms in their spoken and written productions more successfully than others lies in the way in which they attend to or notice these forms when they come across them, whether naturally in naturalistic situations when they interact in the second language or in the classroom, that is, within the context of formal instruction. And there are different conceptualizations of attention in second language acquisition research, but what I'm focusing on in this study is noticing, as defined by the applied linguist Richard Schmidt. Now, Schmidt defines noticing or attention as the conscious registration of the occurrence of some event. That is, when learners notice specific features in the input to which they're being exposed, in reading or in listening, they become consciously aware of specific aspects of the input. And Schmidt further argued that when learners successfully notice a second language form, they are likely to learn the form, with further processing, of course. And one manifestation of learning is the use of the form in actual production. Now, an important thing to consider when talking about linguistic features is that not all linguistic features are processed or noticed or learned alike. And so one would expect that the nature of these forms would influence learner noticing. And a specific relevant characteristic that is applicable or relevant to L2 form noticing and development is the salience of the forms. Now, salience is how much a feature, a linguistic feature, stands out in its context, or how easy it is to be seen or perceived or heard. And this has to do with, it could do with aspects of the feature itself, or the learner's internal processing mechanisms, or their learning history. What do they bring to the learning process? It could be their first languages or their level of proficiency in the second language. And much of the research has focused on perceptual salience, on aspects of the linguistic features themselves. For example, syntactic category. So for example, content words, verbs, nouns, adverbs are more salient and easily noticed by learners than function words such as prepositions, articles, or determiners. There are also auditory aspects such as sonority and phones, or even the communicative value of the form, how much the form contributes to the referential meaning of the sentence. And so I wanted to see how feature salience, how aspects of feature salience interact with learners' noticing and use of these features in the learning of L2 Arabic. And I focused on the following questions. The first two questions look into the effect that the salience of the feature has on the noticing and the speech production of the forms. The third and fourth research questions look into the effect that task type has on the noticing and the production of the target forms. Now, the participants were 80 learners of Arabic, I assigned 40 of them to the input condition. The input condition was comprehension, a comprehension-only condition, whereas the output condition was a combination. This was task type, a combination between comprehension and production, and I assigned 40 participants to that condition as well. And all of the participants were enrolled in first semester intensive Arabic, and so they were novice learners. This figure provides an overview of the study methodology. There are similar tasks that both groups carried out and others that were group specific. So in the output group, the participants described a picture story. They listened to, read and underlined a sample description, and then they re-described the picture story, took an immediate post-test and a debriefing questionnaire, and then took a delayed post-test 2 weeks later. Now, the input group or comprehension-only group followed the same steps, but instead of describing a picture story, they answered comprehension questions. And in this study, I focused on 3 linguistic features in Arabic. The first one is the future tense, and it's a morphosyntactic feature. It's a prefix, and so it's a low salience feature. The second one is time telling, a salient syntactic feature. And the third one is time connectors, a salient lexical cohesion feature. And there is more information in the article on why I categorize the forms in this way. Now, the data show that form salience did influence the noticing and the use of the form. So for example, time telling, a salient syntactic feature, was more noticed and used by the learners in their speech productions than the future tense, a low salience feature. This finding shows that learners may not notice low salience features, especially when the meaning that these features convey is already provided by other more salient items, such as nouns and adverbs, because usually learners rely on other salient items to meet their communicative needs. And when they meet their communicative needs, these other low salience features in a way become redundant for them. And this is especially the case for learners at lower levels of L2 proficiency with limited processing abilities in the second language, and when their native language does not orient them to notice specific items in the second language. Accordingly, there's a need, obviously, for different types of pedagogical interventions that require learners to notice and use target forms, especially low salience ones in meaning-focused activities. Another major finding was that task type, comprehension versus production plus comprehension, affected the production of the linguistic forms, and specifically low salience ones. So when a form was salient enough to be noticed by the participants, as was the case with time telling, there were no differences between the groups. The learners did similarly. But when the form was low salience, such as the future tense marker, it was actually the production plus comprehension condition that promoted more use of the forms. Pedagogically, this suggests the importance of designing production tasks that create a need to fulfill a communicative purpose in a way that draws learners' attention to the forms that they are required, or the forms that are required to perform communicative functions. Now, other findings and pedagogical implications are also presented in the article. I hope that you find the article useful and relevant to your work. Thank you for watching.